Hi there, my name is Ralph Galen, and this is the inaugural show of what we're calling 30 Minutes, which is self-explanatory. What may not be so obvious is the fact that this is not an expose interview program, but we're subscribing to the principle of appreciative inquiry. And what we really want to find out here is what are the effective, what are the positive, compassionate efforts that are being made in Lawrence and having an effect beyond Lawrence as well. And my first guest is Josh Alba, who's a local activist, and he grew up in Lawrence. He had a little sojourn away from Lawrence, but he's returned to be with us. And I think he's, although he describes himself as a rogue in part, and even has forums under that title. I see him as being instrumental in connecting many people in Lawrence in our common cause, and we're going to find out what that is, if we can characterize it. So, Josh, I'd like to welcome you to 30 Minutes. You're so nice to come and be our first guest. And we've known each other for a while, and we've, I think, known each other when we've had ups and downs. I know that I first met you when I was struggling, and to some extent I'm still struggling. But you've given me a lot of hope and encouragement over the years, and I'm thinking that you might be part of a larger group and a larger movement. But you grew up in Lawrence. Just give us a minute or two about how that was, where your upbringing.
Yeah, I grew up in Lawrence, Tower Hill, most of my life. Immigrant family, Dominican immigrant family.
Both your parents,
yep.
Grandparents come over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just went to Catholic school, St. Augustine's up in Tower Hill, and just was really in big family, lots of family gatherings, lots of love, lots of care, lots of intimate time with one another, lots of fooling around. The neighborhood was really vibrant, more vibrant at that time with the youth. Everybody was outside, everybody was playing, everybody could go everywhere around the neighborhood and come back a day later and nobody would bat an eye, kind of thing. Just started seeing some problems as I got older, got into high school, and started raging against the machine, essentially, and feeling oppression little by little, and feeling more anger, and trying to figure all that out throughout my teen years, and started to speak out more and more. Got a couple influences here and there to hone that rage, and get more skills and more language that encapsulated it more fully. And at Lawrence, I've come to love. I had a love-hate relationship with it, and but I really want to see it move forward.
William Sloane Coffin, the great, activist, minister, said that he had a lover's quarrel with the world. I like that. He didn't even have to say hate.
I'll choose that one.
You like
next
that
time.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that could be a title of the show, A Lover's Quarrel with the World. Were there people growing up who were mentors, models?
My father and my mother definitely, I think, in just my mother's her selflessness and her self-sacrifice. Just working all the time, providing at all costs, you know what I mean? And my father doing the same. And my father just trying to figure out how to love me particularly was interesting to go through, and I loved him dearly, and just the just like everybody in my family. You know, like I had my closest relationships throughout my life have been with my family, and just seeing them go through struggle, and we have such a dynamic situation going on. You know, we got like the black Dominican side, the lighter skinned Dominican side, and kind of like the completely white Dominican side. And that's a beautiful thing to see everybody come together and deal with that cultural kind of confusion, especially in Dominican culture, like kind of racist against ourselves in a way, because we don't recognize that we're black. But just going through that and pulling out the best in everybody as well as the worst, and then working through that as I've been growing older and realizing my identity is what my family have lent to me, essentially. But yeah, that's what I would say my influences were from the very beginning.
Did you appreciate them at the time, or did you need some distance to appreciate your parents' selflessness?
Well, I was spoiled, you know, and so playing video games all day, and having space to do backflips, literally, around the house, like having just a big home.
Were you a gymnast?
No, but you know, just flipping on the bed and stuff. You know what I mean? Just playing around as a kid and having this space to run around in circles all day and just not having a care in the world. Kind of has you take things for granted and, you know, rage against your parents that I want more. You know what I mean? So I think that just like happened naturally. But there was always a sense of like to this day, like I love my mother to death, but sometimes we don't share the same language to show one another that we love each other. And so it might come out in a swear or a nudge or a poke or something, but at the same time, those are still signs of love because we have that, that playful camaraderie. But like, she's always putting me in check, though. At the same time, you know what I mean?
Well, when did you start thinking beyond video games and
high school,
growing discontent?
Yeah, high school.
What prompted that?
You know, it's interesting. I think literature really got me thinking way ahead. I loved my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Clark. Just, you know, and then my high school teacher, Mr. Allen. Really diving into literature. We read Shakespeare. We read the Greek, the Iliad, the Odyssey rather. Didn't read the whole Iliad. Looking at Greek mythology, looking at, you know, biblical texts, looking at Jesus, St. Francis. There's like all these like really radical figures in different ways that really came to fruition in high school for me, where just kind of just like realizing the imposition that we're under and kind of the system and how things are kind of like rigged against us and they're pushing us through this pipeline of some sort, and just wanting to be freer, to be free, to be actually free as opposed to being imposed upon and given options. And then like, I think it was sophomore year, 2001. It was like my junior year. In high school, 9/11 happened, and I was just like, you know, the school was like frozen. And there's like one teacher that had a TV, and we see it like administrators running down over there to see what's going on. And, you know, taking, you know, pulling from Homer and Ulysses raging against the gods, right? And just like having like this epic battle with forces unseen, you know what I mean? Kind of made a focal point on 9/11, saying how could this happen? The constant struggle against the dark forces, or just like kind of imposing forces of some way, trying to undo the will of man, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then that constant struggle for us to be ourselves is what I always identified with.
Oh, okay. So it's not just the day of of September 11th, where teachers might have brought that up, but that was part of your own way of looking at the world.
But 9/11 brought it in, like it spawned it into a larger context of the national context for sure, and like my place in it, and like I have to do something now.
So, actually, how did that day and subsequently 9/11, what did that hold for you?
A lot of reading. Just a lot of reading, a lot of conversation about what's going on, kind of examining what we've been taught to believe about this country and who we are, and American exceptionalism, and how we're great, and yada yada yada, and like how much money we're spending on war versus social services. And
did you ever think at a time, especially that in recent days, September 11th, September 12th, 13th, that there was an opportunity there for the world? I remember, I can't say this in French, but we are all American. You'd see these statements from around the world of solidarity with the United States, despite whatever foreign policy there may have been. Now we were a victim. Welcome to victimhood on a grand, unthought of scale. We're with you as a suffering people. Did you see an
At that time, no way. Everything was a blur. I saw that, and it was a hope, but I think we got driven back to consumer culture, and we know who it is already. Everything's taken care of. Just do your daily activity. Kind of swept everybody up, and orange alerts and all that stuff kind of kept everybody at a panic.
How would you characterize Lawrence at this time? You're in high school. You're recently graduated. What's the state of? A lot has been said about Lawrence, and I sometimes say we have more politics in Lawrence than Chicago, put together. But what was your grasp?
Yeah, so again, high school, didn't have that much political consciousness at all. Wasn't that involved in the community, like really at all, just like in my neighborhood.
But then September 11th and subsequently.
Yeah, and then just thinking about issues, but like my political consciousness about Lawrence has been. And like a troubled city, I can't go into certain neighborhoods, even though my family lived there, and I did, and I loved it in these certain neighborhoods. But no, I didn't know anything about the political climate at the time or anything really. It was kind of just in a blur of playing and raging against some unseen enemy, and trying to get people together to talk about it.
So there was a time when you left Lawrence. Looking for job opportunities, and you went down to, where'd you go?
Yeah, that was a jump from high school. I went to, I graduated in 2002. Didn't go to college right away or anything. I took like 10 years off essentially. But I went to, before I actually went to college, I went to Miami in 2009. And lived there for 2.5 years, something like that, and kind of just got blown up mentally in my worldview. Because you're in Lawrence, you see like this little microcosm, don't even know it's a microcosm of the world at large. Very isolated, very siloed. You think that you have a very limited frame of reference, a truncated frame of reference. And then when I went to Miami, it's a metropolis. You get to hang out with anybody and everybody from Wall Street. Their Brickell is what the financial sector down there. Really high end, fast cars, drugs, money, partying. To you get to go all the way almost. I don't know, I guess more left, and you see, hippies, tree hugging, people being active against all sorts of issues, lots of flowiness, kind of more let go of the world kind of thing. Let's go to the beach, let's have fun, and let's kind of like hedonistic kind of lifestyles. And then there, it was just and then tourism is crazy down there, living in the heart of like South Beach.
So you went for employment, right?
Yeah.
But this was an extra for you to fall in with. Eventually, you became acquainted with Occupy.
Yeah.
Okay, and became a spokesperson.
While I was in Miami, I got with, I saw this film called Zeitgeist,
Okay.
Addendum. That was the first film that was kind of on religious stuff, but then Addendum was presenting kind of larger social, political, economic issues. And then at the end of the film, it proposed a vision for the future and how we could get there and how it's technologically feasible.
Do you think Lawrence is unique in its being isolated from having a global view?
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a poem that somebody wrote that I seen on Def Poetry Jam, where the lady was from some African country, and she was talking about how, in conversation with her grandmother, that she can't even speak her own mother tongue, but her grandmother is telling her, like, hey, talk to us in our language. And she's just like, you know, seeing the past before her and her grandmother and seeing the future within herself and in the United States. And she's just like, you know, the past is begging me to remember while the present urges me to forget. And I was just like, oh my God, that's Lawrence being the immigrant city, my parents immigrating over from Dominican Republic. I don't know how unique we are, right? But I think we have something very special in terms of we are an immigrant city. We're always a gateway. We're always going to be a gateway city, it seems. And I think it should be that way, always welcoming of people from other countries.
Lawrence is extraordinarily welcoming. It's like my hometown, New York, where if you want to be a New Yorker, knock yourself out. You're a New Yorker. You could be, 5 minutes off the plane or the boat, and if you want to identify with New York, great. And that term gateway is extraordinary. I wouldn't call the cities that ring Lawrence gateway cities, and not that the people aren't welcoming, but the way they're set up, with the Immigrant City Street Ministry. I ate at all the soup kitchens, and it was kind of a kick. We're standing outside. I'm on the veranda of one soup kitchen, and these two wonderful people who had driven up from Andover or North Andover come out and he said, I hope our car is still there. And I just had to kind of have a laugh for that. First of all, we would have protected them from any car theft, but tremendous, very primitive myths about Lawrence and vice versa as well. But that one can't be you can't have a gateway city without having certain corollaries to that. And one of them is going to be poverty. Lawrence it's no denying that Lawrence it is on record as being the poorest community in New England. In New England. And yet there's a tremendous welcoming, I find.
I think it keeps us real.
Keeps us real?
Yeah.
The poverty keeps us real?
Yeah, I think it's more money, more problems. Biggie Smalls. I think that the situation that we have here in Lawrence with people coming straight over from other countries and finding their place in the United States and the constant mix between the new and the old and how we still have our cultural identities intact, some more than others, I think keeps us grounded in like that lady's poem, in a culture that's urging us to forget, and that means, and that poverty, that kind of that grit. I hate to use that word. That grit keeps us real with one another, and where it seems to the outside world that we're aggressive. You know what I mean? When we have kind of a stank look on our faces walking around or something, but like you could see those same faces nodding at one another as a sign of respect to one another, and just like saying hi to each other. And I might not even know you, but like we're walking in the street right now and it's freezing, or it's the summertime and you're feeling this right now, like yes. and we have like an actual sense of community. Disjointed still, sure, but there's something there's something that we could build on that other communities don't have, and that's like a realness of what we're going through. That we're all living in this together.
All right. Let's dig down for 5 minutes into the charter school issue that you're very passionate about. You're not only working on this issue, but I think it comes out of your own commitment to education. And I've asked you to put yourself in the shoes of someone who is pro-charter school. What is the problem with a charter school? As you say, I've come from another country. I look at a charter school as this incredible, free, private school. Can you spend a minute identifying with those folks? What are their hopes?
Yeah, I think that looking at the history of Lawrence, how the school system has been a failure for such a long time. We had a corrupted superintendent previously, before the receivership, and all our schools were level 5. The schools are overburdened. Teachers are, stressed out. Students are not getting the learning environment experience that they deserve, that all children deserve, all students deserve. And so the charters came along, this is statewide, countrywide, because education budgets have been being cut for the last, 3, 4, 5 decades, since the 70s, 60s.
And that's really felt in the quality of education.
Especially in poor communities, because their money comes from property taxes, right?
And certain subject areas might be cut as well. There might be
art, history,
sports,
social studies.
which is a tremendous, really a tremendous activity in schools that bring people together and teach a lot of civic things that you don't learn otherwise. Arts, music programs, and so on. So you're left after 40, 50 years with kind of a bare bones curriculum.
And so I think charter proponents, or maybe more accurately charter parents, because proponents are a different array of people. In Lawrence specifically, I think they're looking for a way out of the public school system. And I think primarily they're looking for school choice, which I think is a separate issue, because we do have some level 1 schools in Lawrence that are public, and other ones that are doing really well as well, that are just different levels. Have different programming, different collaborations with community members, community organizations, and even different cities and different universities. And I think that they see the charter school movement as a way to care for their child more, that would be more guaranteed success there.
So that hopefulness and that yearning and is not the issue.
Exactly.
The public schools have slid over decades. This is not something that happened overnight, and the charter schools are posited as a fix for that, and kind of a quick fix.
It's a corporate fix.
And you think of it as a corporate fix.
Yeah.
You think that profits are going into...
Oh yeah, no, it is. It is. The money behind the charter school movement is WBUR did a thing on it, did an article, did some research on it. Dark money. Jim Walton of the Walmart family is behind it. There's all kinds of hedge fund money, Wall Street, the same people that created the economic collapse of 2008. The coming collapse of student debt. This is profiteering, and we see this specifically in the ballot question. That is privatization of public education, because they're looking to increase. They're looking to expand the charter system indefinitely, and we're likening it to, especially in our community where people come from other countries, that this is privatization the same type that you're fleeing in your home countries. This is privatization of your public resources like water and your electricity that are failing and are sold at a premium. This is globalization come home.
So to sum up your cause and your and your plea, part of it I think is to ask people to take a good hard look at what is a quick fix and to realize that something that's been disarray, it's kind of like somebody eating junk food for 60 years and then all of a sudden they have a general system breakdown, failure, and you're saying that's going to take time to reverse that. You see a way back, though, to strong public schools?
Fix the ones that we have. Give fully fund public education. Put students at the center. Give teachers control over their classrooms.
You had said before that education has to do with producing, liberating an individual and developing critical analysis and turning a student into a true citizen capable of making important decisions. I want to ask you, do you have those 8,000 emails of Hillary's?
I have access to them.
You have access to them?
I'm reading through them.
Okay, you're reading through them. What's going on?
I think our empire is falling. I think the emperor has no clothes, and everybody could see it. They're the two lowest approval rating, two presidents that have the lowest approval rating, if like ever. I think. I think the fear mongering on both sides is ridiculous. I think the cat fighting that's going on is ridiculous. It's a sign of where we are at as a country. Our foreign policy that was pushed by Clinton and her husband is coming home to roost. And I think we need a revolution in this country to change things around and put a third party in.
I want to end on a positive note. Just imagine if you're an 11-year-old girl about to go into middle school, high school ahead of you. That's what gives me hope. It gave me hope for Obama for about 20 minutes because all over the world people could see a person of color who was actually the most powerful figure in the world. But I sure agree with you. Our democracy is thin. We're hoping with discussions like this we can help to rebuild it. And I know your work is in that direction. So I want to thank Josh Alba, who's been an activist here in Lawrence, working with groups in common cause. I want to thank our producer, Tom Gale, One World Community. I want to thank the staff of Lawrence Community Access TV for hosting our inaugural program. I want to thank Janice Peltier, and I want to thank Domingo Villalona and Ginny Alexander for inviting us here. And we're hoping that we can get beneath the controversy to the needs that we share in common with each other. The needs not only to be loved and supported and have a job and have food and water, but also the need to be creative and the need to love. There's so much love in this city. And as a friend says, what we've had for a long time in America are the small kindnesses that we can extend to each other. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.